So now going to transition into the first 2 episodes for Moon Knight. And I feel that, like, in the past, we've probably done a few episodes where it's just been, like, breaking down, doing some origins of the different characters, the different shows that are coming out for the different Marvel projects. And so I think now that we're actually getting content, it would be a lot more enjoyable to do some more reviews and provide some other kind of insights, some general insight to see what we liked, what we didn't like, etc. So I think that's probably what we're going to transition into right now. For this segment is going to be kind of like a spoiler review for the first 2 episodes of Moon Knight, so make sure you do watch it. And then kind of on our social media channel, we have some other more specific breakdowns and theories. So if you'd like to have some more condensed content, feel free to check that one out. So I think we'll begin with the review here. So I watched this pretty late last night. Matthew, what were your thoughts on, like, the first 2 episodes? You're telling me a little bit about it over text, but feel free to kind of elaborate on it.
Yeah, so when you have the comic book knowledge, it's always interesting to see how it's going to play out in the cinematic or television version that we have here. But I really enjoyed how the story is told entirely from Stephen Grant's perspective. So as he learns about Mark Spector's identity, we are too. And it's not like, I feel like the default strategy in TV shows is to give the audience more knowledge than the main characters have. But in this case, it's cool to be able to experience the show from the point of view of Stephen Grant. And we're sort of acting as detectives trying to put the pieces together, when he discovers the Motorola phone, when he discovers the keys, and the amulet, and we ourselves can't determine whether he's living in a dream world or if that's actually happening in reality. And it turns out in episode 2 that it is.
So you actually just bring up something, like 2 things that I wanted to touch on. The second one, I just realized something completely different from, like, we'll probably do, like, another kind of breakdown video on it that I definitely want to hold on to for later. But one of the first things that you touched on that I totally agree with is that whenever, like, you kind of, like, go into these now, it was very cool to be able to, like, pick up some different things that I would never thought about earlier on if I didn't really know a little bit about the comic origin of Moon Knight. And so I feel like they're slowly piecing together, like, his past and what's going on. And I was very excited to be able to pick up on some of those details and really, like, understand. And whenever I'd say his background is coming together, we start learning a little bit more about Mark. Whenever it's starting to align with the comics and what we've already know, it's one of the cooler feelings, really. And so whenever you have certain predictions that are coming true as well, it's like, wow, like, that actually came true. It's another type of euphoria, really, that I was like, this is really awesome to see in the first 2 episodes, right off the bat. And so I think from that, like, overall, this has probably been one of my favorite television series that Marvel has produced. I think it kind of rivals that with Loki. Like, Loki, we already know of him, and also that, he's been around in a few different projects, but this is the first MCU project that we're getting with Moon Knight, Mark Spector, Stephen Grant specifically, and I think his origin has been absolutely phenomenal so far. Would you agree?
Oh, 100%. And I think it's the first Marvel show of its kind, and what I mean by that is that it's the first show where we're being introduced to an entirely new character. You could argue that Hawkeye introduced Haley Steinfeld as the successor to Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye, but we had a lot of familiarity going into that series. Here we're introduced to an entirely new subverse in the MCU. And I think they've done a seamless job thus far.
Yeah, no, it's been absolutely incredible. I just love the acting by Oscar Isaac has been phenomenal. Like, to me, he was in the other, I'd say, X-Men project, that being Apocalypse, and does not have great, like, highly, like, good reviews. But this one so far, the acting has been absolutely tremendous. To have kind of the cocky, confident, not really cocky, but the confident mercenary who really knows what's going on, that being with Mark Spector. And then the one who's just totally aloof, that being Stephen Grant, who doesn't know when Khonshu is going to appear. He does not really have that like good connection with him that Mark does. And so it's been really fun to see those different personas play out from, the same actor in general. And I think the other acting that's gone on with Ethan Hawke's character, he is someone who's very experienced, that have been Khonshu's old avatar and now being Amit's avatar. It's really cool to see that little creative freedom and spin that Marvel's putting on some of these different characters, and the overall acting, I feel, has been incredible. In addition to the fight scenes that we've seen, like, it has not been much. They've like teased it a little bit here and there, especially that first episode. We just see at the very end Moon Knight going with the absolute kill shot to that one jackal, and then at the very for this newest episode, we were able to see an actual fight scene, which was very, very cool. So I'm curious for you, what were your favorite scenes so far, whether it was action-wise, whether it was acting-wise, whether it was cameo-wise or hidden details-wise? What was your favorite scenes?
I'm guessing this is a fan favorite, but my first favorite scene was the end of episode 1, when we get a glimpse at the suit as Moon Knight is walking towards the camera, and then the screens roll down. But apart from that, there was one Easter egg in episode 2 that I'm not sure many people caught, that it was as Moon Knight, as Stephen Grant managed to manifest his own version of the Moon Knight suit that kind of looked like a detective with a ski mask. And he was fighting that evil Egyptian creature that Ethan Hawke's character had summoned. And Mark, he looks at the reflection. He sees his reflection on the bus as he's fighting the creature on the street, and Mark Spector says, "Let me switch places with you because people are going to get hurt." So he submits to Mark and lets him revert to his normal Moon Knight form. And then you have a shot of Moon Knight standing in front of the bus, and in the background is an ad for...
I was going to bring that up. No, keep going, man. You're doing so well. That was a great point. Keep going.
Is an advertisement for an organization that was formed in the wake of Endgame. Formed in the wake of Infinity War and Endgame. And it was an advert that read, I think, here to help you find your other half, which is essentially an organization designed to reunite people who were blipped away from their significant other and reconnected them once they got blipped back into reality. And that actually gave us some insight into the time frame in which this storyline takes place, because it was previously thought that it may have happened before Infinity War, because Stephen Grant has a Galaxy 9, I think, which came out around that era. But this essentially proves that it happens in the more recent MCU timeline. And I don't remember the name of the organization. It's called you probably know it.
Yeah, so the organization is called the Global Repatriation Council. Excuse me.
Yeah,
that was from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So that was absolutely amazing point. I did not pick up on that. There's some people that are out there that do. So I saw this online. Someone had that Easter egg. I'm like, I would not be thinking to look at that unless it was right on the screen, the main focus. Yeah, it was not. I was not able to pick up on that. So I'm very glad you brought that up. In addition to kind of putting the context clues together for when this is going to take place, that was a big thing. Not really many people knew. So that was a great guess for when it initially did with the phone that Stephen Grant or Mark had, and then also now with the new council taking place, during Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This is all really happening, in 2023, 24, kind of around that period, whenever present day MCU is supposed to be right now. So that was a great point, and Easter eggs are very, very fun now whenever you're able to pick them out after kind of having learned a little bit about the character. So for everyone that's watching, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about his origin, try to see these Easter eggs for yourself. We do another video on the origin for Moon Knight, and you can feel free to check that out in the link in the description below. We'll try to put that there. But that's great. I see, those moments are definitely, some of my favorites as well, especially the end of that first episode. I think, whenever we're actually able to see, Moon Knight fight in that second episode, that was one of my favorites, just knowing that it realized, a few things. One, it was not Khonshu that was fighting. Khonshu is the one that is able to provide him really with the attire that he has, and it's kind of speculated as to exactly what his suit is made out of, whether it is Kevlar or some type of vibranium metal for certain parts of his suit. But regardless, that is kind of the outfit that he dons. But within the suit, it's still Mark. So we learned that, one, because at the very end of that first episode, we can hear some beat, it's some heavy breathing whenever he's beating the living shit out of that one jackal, right? And so, for most superheroes, we don't actually hear that breathing, meaning that it's some other type of supernatural character. But for this one, we hear it there. And then from Stephen Grant transforming into Mr. Knight and him talking, and then for Mark going through the battle, we learn that it's still those characters that are just within the suit. So that means that Mark has all these, mercenary abilities, as it was mentioned, and all these different, unique fighting skills. And in the comics, he's an excellent marksman as well. So it really does play well into the fact that it aligns with the comics. And so that was pretty cool to see on both ends. And that was, the actual fight scene was one of my favorites. And I think it was just a little bit of bits and pieces that I thought were just the right amount. So I think it was a long enough fight scene where I was really able to, make me just be for a few moments there. And then also whenever Stephen Grant was no, don't touch me. I'm not going back. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to Mark. I'm you shut up, man. You're going to die. Go to Mark right now. So I think it was just the right amount of agony, anticipation for him to transform. Then once he did, I was just so happy as well. So those are my favorite moments, and I think from across the two episodes, and overall just some absolutely amazing display for the different shows from what we've seen so far. And I can't wait to see what happens next, because we also have only been given really the trailers have only really focused those scenes that we see in the trailers really only highlight the first two episodes. So the next four, we really don't have any clips from those episodes, which is great because everything is kind of locked and shut off. So everything is going to be new to us. It's all going to be a surprise.
Yeah, well said. And I feel these first two episodes are sort of the almost a prequel in a way. They're introducing, they've sort of now completely set up the plot that is to take place for the rest of the show. And pivoting the conversation a little bit, I wanted to talk about Harrow's character, because I was kind of skeptical of Ethan Hawke as a casting choice, but I think he's done a marvelous job thus far, no pun intended. And the reason why his character appeals to me is because in the MCU, I tend to find the villains that have the villains that are guided by ideologies to be more compelling than those who are just power hungry, like a Loki. I mean, Loki is a fan favorite, but I don't find him to be an intimidating villain. Thanos, his ideology was the concept of balance. In this case, it seems that Harrow is almost somewhat of a cult leader, and he believes that that those who have the potential to commit evil acts should be punished before those acts even take place. That's why he wants to resurrect. What's her? I'm blanking out on her name.
Oh, Amit.
Yeah, that's why he wants to resurrect Amit. Whereas Khonshu believes that he should punish those who should only be punished after they've committed their evil acts. And I think that is a good foundation for the conflict that is to come between Mark Spector, Stephen Grant, and Harrow.
Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely agree with you. And it's kind of interesting to have that take on it, and kind of have that ethical dilemma. It's kind of like, Deadpool at the very end for that post-credit scene going back to, baby Hitler. And it was like, whatever, he's like, he was really like, stuck in the moment. He's like, okay, here we go. And then at the very end, we just see like Deadpool cradling baby Hitler. He's like, no, I can't do it. He's a child. But if this is her in that case, would not have, would not have hesitated twice right there. So it's like, it is pretty interesting to see that, and like to have Stephen Grant be the one too to kind of call out Harrow on this matter whenever Mark kind of like shut down, whenever he started talking about Khonshu and like his deal. Stephen's like, this is kind of messed up actually if you think about it. Now we're talking about
we're murdering babies.
Okay, now we're really
draw the line at murdering children.
Yeah, if you think about it, like kind of on a ethical perspective, like some of the topics that they've brought up, it's been like kind of on some of the higher up levels with them. Like I think this is the first time they actually mentioned like really like World War II and the Nazis specifically. Like in the past, I think they've tried to divert it away by introducing Hydra as being like the equivalent to that group, and a few others like dictators and tyrants from the past. And now he's bringing up this other like big ethical dilemma about trying to erase trying to create this heaven on earth. And obviously, in order to create that heaven, it's going to induce some it's going to call for some sacrifices as well, just as Thanos' plan did. He was trying to create that new kind of prosperous era by kind of wiping out the population. And this is like the other way to do it, really, is like now instead of sacrificing half the population, now they're actually targeting those. So it really is
they're cleansing the population.
So it really is going to be a little bit biased on that sense. So kind of another way of going about with this villain theory, and can't wait to see how that plays out. But I think this would probably be a good transition into our last segment, which is going to be breaking down and talking a little bit more about some of them, possibly, the comics, some of the Easter eggs, and then also some of the, the hidden details / intentions for these different characters to really understand a little bit more about everything that's going on. So hopefully you enjoyed this review. And I think with that, we'll snap away into our last segment being the breakdown of the first 2 episodes. So Matt, let's snap away here in 3, 2, 1. I could not even hear it like on my end from my own snap. So that's how I know this.
I mute my microphone because the house phone is ringing, so I didn't want it to.
Oh, okay. It's just going to be my little piece of trying to snap here is what it's going to be then. So that's not going to work out as well, but we're still going to roll with it.